Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 217 of Kouryer podcast. Our today's guest is Mr. Michael Guerrero. He's a 3D environment artist from California, United States. And as always, before we get into the questions, in the for contact section of the captions, you can find the links to his Instagram account, his Twitter profile, and also his art session. And also, there's those Linktree links as well, so you can check all his other socials and links as well if you wanted to. And with that being said, how are we doing today?
Doing pretty good. How are you?
All right, doing pretty good myself as well. And it's kind of, as I mentioned before in the beginning of our pre-recording call, it's kind of nostalgic for me because in the first 30 episodes of the podcast was always audio only. So this is like, it's like a flashback for me in a sense. And yeah, an actual funny story, it happened, the change of the format happened pretty randomly. One day, yes, it was, I think, episode 30 with Casey Curran from Seattle. At the time, Zencastr rolled in the video feature for the first time. So it was pretty new. And when he joined the call, he just joined with the video on, and because he assumed it was a video podcast. And I was like, all right, this is kind of rude for me to not turn on my camera. So I just turned on my camera, and from that point, changed history forever.
That's funny. I didn't even know that. I've never even heard of this website.
Yeah, I mean, Zencastr is not sponsored, by the way. Just let me quickly mention that it's a pretty useful thing for podcasting, to be honest. And yeah, let's move into the signature question of the podcast, which is give us a little introduction on how we got into the world of visual arts and design. Basically, tell us your origin story of what made you pursue art.
Oh, man, that's when I was in high school. I did not know what I wanted to do. I was like, oh, maybe I want to make games. That sounds like fun, but I didn't. I was like, oh, I can't code though. I'm not good at math, so I'm like, I don't think I could do that. And then a recruiter from a school came and then showed what you could do without using math. And I was like, oh, I didn't even know there was a thing. I didn't know you could just 3D model stuff, and I fell in love with that. So I went to the Art Institute, and originally I started out in their animation program. So I was doing 2D drawings and learning how to do old school animation, stuff like that. And the classes were pretty much the same as the game design courses, at least the first semester. Everything was pretty much similar. There was similar classes. They had a intro 3D class and an intro level design class. So after maybe 2 quarters, I ended up switching into the game art, which they let me do. So it's kind of cool that I have some animation background, so I kind of understand certain things when I'm watching a movie or I'm watching a TV show.
And well, here's the thing that was kind of interesting, but I want to know, when you were deciding to, pick a major for yourself. I don't know if you went to college or not, but basically when you were at the end and in your senior year of high school, did you in the end decide to just follow something game development related, or you went into another major that is deemed safer, by probably family, society, or something? Then you could, branch out to game design later. How did your plan basically went about?
Well, so in high school there's a college that I wanted to go to, but I didn't have the credits to go to it. So I was going to have to go to a community college. But then the recruiter that came from the Art Institute showed that you didn't really need those credits. So I was able to just join. So that's kind of why I ended up doing the art school, because I didn't have to have all of my certain high school classes to be able to get into the school.
Yeah, I could totally, see what you mean, because a lot of people, from my home country, I'm actually from Iran. They do the same, they don't go to college. There's trade tech schools. I think it's called Honaristan. It's the substitute for high school for people who want to, maybe later on pursue sometimes computer related tech related stuff, or, even art sometimes, So yeah, I mean, I wish I did that, when I was younger and not went to high school, to be honest. And now, of course, in the introduction, I mentioned that, you're a 3D environment artist, but do you want to what will your main branch of design be in the future? Like, what are you trying to focus on? Like, as an specialist, like, because in the environment art as well, there's so many different fields, you can, zoom in, but what are you focusing on?
Originally, like after I graduated from college, I was just like making small props and like weapons and stuff. And then I was told that to not like be a generalist, I guess, not focus on too many things, because I knew how to do 3D. I have a couple 3D animations that I had learned in college, and I learned how to rig a couple characters. But somebody told me that to keep it like focus on one thing and don't spread yourself out too thin. So I started focusing on environment art, and currently what I am doing is just focusing on um, just like mostly 3D environment art. I haven't really done anything with characters, or haven't done anything like I haven't done much foliage. I've been mostly like stylized. I've been focusing on stylized stuff and hard surface.
Yeah, I mean, I'm basically on the same boat as you, like, stylized assets and, hard surface stuff mostly. But right now I'm kind of, doing a course on environment art mastery as well. And yeah, let's talk about some design processes of, how you do environments. But let me quickly mention, just the pipeline we go through with the course I'm doing. So then you can let me know, how does it, compare to your own pipeline.
Okay.
And so basically, we first start with like what's it called? I think one of them was different. There was art blockout, and we start with the design blockout first to get the, like, the composition, the scale right. Then we go to the art blockout, of course, the modular, see how much we want to do modular stuff, how much we want to do, unique stuff. Then after that, we go to physical lighting setups and, the rest of the plans, which I'm not going to tell because it's going to be 12 more steps. And I don't think, the listeners are going to be
there is
really
indeed
eager.
A lot of steps.
Yeah. But what are your main initial steps, actually? Like, what is your thought process on, when you want to approach any environment, basically?
My favorite part is just like the 3D modeling. That's like my favorite part of just anything. It's just like, I just love doing that. So starting is like the worst part, because I have to find something that I want to 3D model, and it's like I have to find reference. I'm looking all over like Google and looking through images. I ended up for my stylized Maria Hassan building or environment that I made. I searched Sweden, and I was on Google. I was like looking at all their like the most popular buildings that they had there. And I was originally going to do like, I forgot what it's called. It's like the main like square in Stockholm. But I was on Google Maps, and I was like kind of walking around the streets virtually. And then I saw that building, and I was like, oh, that's a really cool building. That'd be really cool in like a Overwatch style. So once I got my reference, took tons of reference. I was on Google searching. I was on Instagram searching just reference and downloading images and making my ref board. And then I started blockouts. And I actually have on my post, I actually have like a blockout. I have a video from like the very first blockout all the way to like the final. So I started the blockouts and started trying to get the camera angle that I wanted to keep like for the whole till the final, because I wanted that long like video of like from start to finish. And once I did that, it went to 3D modeling. So I like made sure everything that like I wanted, like I had ready, I guess. I don't know, that sounded weird. But trying to think. So I was trying to figure out what I wanted to be modular so I could reuse. So certain things are like the corners. Like if you look at the main image I'm using for the building the main shot I took, the corner that's closest to us, that can be like reused like on all sides, like as like a pillar. So that, and then above that is a wall that's being able to be reused. So it's mostly just figuring out what I want to be able to be reused. I didn't even start on like the props and anything. I was mostly just like the full on block out, no like super detailed anything, just full on like gray mesh block out. Then once I figured that out, I had all of the modular pieces. I had them all like the size I wanted them in Maya, and then off of those, like I used a plane, like a 2x3 meter plane, and then off of that I would make my modular asset off that to the same dimensions. And then from there, I think I went to making materials, which took probably the longest amount of time. The brick material took so long to get the way I wanted it. It was such a pain. So materials, and then making sure the trim sheets. So block out to the making the. I hope you don't have to do like a lot of editing for this. I'm sorry. I'm just like
No, it's fine. Like I don't really do editing. This is fine. Like
I'm just trying to think of all the steps because there's so many steps to think about. So 3D block out, and then I did the modular pieces. Started with the materials, and then trim sheets. And there's a lot of back and forth, going back and redoing things, and then putting them on the model, and then iterating. And then I think the buildings that are on the left, I changed so much that the original materials looked way different, and they were different colors. It looked more like more similar to like the real life street. But I was told I was given feedback to change it up and make it look more stylized a bit, and like have a better composition, I guess. So then it's just the textures, the materials, and then basically everything. And then I think the last thing I did was the foliage, the trees and the foliage, and some of the smaller props were like the last bits. And then the sky, the sky was like the final piece that I had to do.
the background vista, you mean?
Yes, the background was like there's a ultra dynamic sky, I think is what I used on ArtStation. Or not ArtStation, the Unreal Engine marketplace I got, which I really thought was like the best looking for like what I was going for.
All right. And here's an interesting thing that I actually want to ask you is how long did it take you to actually understand how the workflow of, working with Substance Designer? Like, because that's one of my biggest like weaknesses, to be honest.
Man. I still am so bad at Substance Designer. For the brick material, I was following I have a tutorial on YouTube, and I pretty much like matched it similar, but then I started looking at other tutorials and then like taking pieces from like certain bricks on these other tutorials that I wanted and like kind of like putting them into mine. I started just like changing it with the color and like the way the cracks look. So it's just, once I had like the base from the tutorial on there, I started just like changing things, kind of understanding, like going from one thing to another, just understanding certain things, changing them, understanding what that change did. So with like the colors and the albedo, like the normal map, the roughness, all that stuff is just like basically just playing around with all the settings and adding and taking away until like I finally got what I wanted, I guess.
All right. And here's an interesting thing. When like doing or like trying to planning an environment for yourself at first with the art blockout, have you ever encountered this problem of like biting more than you could chew? Because that's something most junior environment artists, myself included, by the way, do tend to do. Like they make huge blockouts and have huge aspirations and energy at first, but when it's finished and they continue it, they're like, oh god, I think this is too much and I need to lower the scope of my project. Like have you
Yeah,
ever dealt with that?
that's definitely something I've done before. Like with my, I think every project I've done, like my stylized Columbus Tower, that's been the smallest environment, which like took forever just because it was much bigger than what I've done. My like biggest thing from that was the Junkrat Overwatch weapon. That was like my biggest piece, I guess. Unless like I also did a 3D model of like my bedroom, but that was like just mostly modeling and then slapping like a regular normal texture on there. So there wasn't much like game design. It was just more 3D modeling and then getting the light how I wanted it. But the Junkrat weapon was like pretty good. It didn't take that long to do that. And then when I went to the Columbus Tower, that took way longer because I was learning way more things. I was like, oh man, it's like so I learned how to do trim sheets on that. I learned how to do for text painting. I learned how to use tiling textures. I wasn't using anything tiling. I made my own tiling materials and textures um, for the building, and then I did modularity for that as well. That was the first time I tried out doing something modular, which was very difficult because the building I chose was not a square. It's like a triangle. So trying to get things to snap together perfectly on a not a 45 or 90-degree angle was really annoying. But then I also learned how to do decals. Decals, that was really cool. So everything really. Oh, cube maps. Cube maps was like the biggest part of that project because I wanted to have an interior to the rooms, but I was like, oh, I can't do that. That makes no sense. So somebody told me about cube maps, and basically it's a fake interior. So whenever the camera moves, it looks like the interior of the windows are like it's an actual 3D room, but it's not, which they use a lot in the Spider-Man game. For all the windows, they have fake rooms that they use to simulate that there's, I guess, it's not just a flat wall, it's more to that. So it gives you, I guess, more immersive environment, especially when you're walking like down a street and you see like, because in real life, you're walking down the street, you could see like into apartments, you can see office buildings, but if you're in a game, like how they used to do it, it was just like one flat image that wouldn't move, and just the same image that they like in like the older GTAs. It was just like the storefronts were just like painted images that of like the inside, but they didn't move, they didn't do anything, so it looked pretty boring. But yeah, that's I right now currently. I think I bit off more than I can chew with the environment I'm trying to work on. It's it's bigger than I thought it was going to be, and I'm trying to figure out how to finish it and how to keep going on it.
Oh man, like I wish you the best of luck, and I hope you could finish it on time. And because I know the struggle, like I'm kind of middle of that as well. And yeah, I think about the Spider-Man game thing. I think I even saw a video about it. The technique you talked about. I think it's called parallax mapping or something, if I'm not
Yes,
mistaken.
it's you could use a. I think there's a parallax map is like a plane, and then I'm using parallax mapping and I'm using cube maps in that in my Columbus or not in my Columbus Tower. So one like the image, it's like an image. The parallax map is an image of like the 3D room. So if I took like a picture of like the inside of a 3D room, So when the camera moves, it'll like warp towards the camera to make it look like it's moving. But that and cube mapping are like two different things. The cube map is using like way more of the engine to like move around and see like the inside of the room, because it's being projected from there's like, oh, it's kind of hard to explain, but if you make like a room that's like enclosed, there's a camera in the middle of it, so it's like taking an image of the floor, the ceiling, like all the walls, and then it is projecting them on a fake 3D space, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking of Overwatch, who are some of your mains actually?
Oh, Overwatch. Oh man, I could talk about Overwatch all day. Right now, I think my favorite character is probably Reinhardt as a tank, but I've currently been playing Wrecking Ball like so much this season. Like I don't think I've even played him as much the rest the time the whole time he's been out until this season. Like I've been playing him so much because I've been winning his. It's funny.
All right, let me ask this: if you want to annoy the enemy team as much as possible, who you're gonna pick? That's a real question.
Man, Wrecking Ball is definitely one to really annoy. I'm surprised people don't start yelling at me, but usually when I'm not playing, when I'm playing like support or I'm playing DPS and then they have a Wrecking Ball, it's so annoying because nobody's killing him, no one's doing anything. He's just rolling by and then rolling away. But that, and also Moira is pretty annoying too.
Oh God, yes.
Especially if your team is just like not able to do anything and the Moira is just like doing DPS from the back. It's just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, my personal favorite is Junkrat. I don't get why people don't play it more. Like, it's so easy to, be annoyed with it.
He's pretty easy character to play and just like can do so much with his ultimate. It's really annoying. It's like you'll either lose or win from his ultimate.
Yeah, I think it's just one of my personal tastes. Like, as long as in a game there's a character with satchel charges, I kind of have affinity for satchel charges, honestly. Like, my main in Valorant is like, Raze in like, League, and Dota. I play like characters that have are bomb related for some reason, especially they all have satchel charges as well. I don't know, like, maybe I should try to do a satchel charge, like, explosive equipment project for myself as well. I think that'd be a cool idea. Yeah,
that'd be a cool idea.
Yeah, definitely.
I need to play more games. I've been playing too much Overwatch, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with me is, I'm kind of like impulsive. So, for example, I actually uninstalled Overwatch like a week ago, but right now I'm just from time to time playing Valorant and League of Legends. Sometimes it's not the best decision, I know. I probably should cut that out. But the thing with Valorant is that I really like that I really wish all other games try to do that as well. Like, it's not an intended feature, but it's an amazing feature. Let me explain. Like, you can make custom lobbies in Valorant, right? And you can, invite your friends, maybe, make a team of, for example, 2 versus a team of 4, and, do wild stuff like that, right? But if you go there without any friends and you're alone, and you can choose any map and you can go explore the map in ghost mode as much as you want. So for an environment artist who's trying to study environments, that is like an absolutely amazing thing, And I love that so much. Like, I sometimes, put the camera in a way in a map, and I start to do, like, sometimes for fun, like, perspective drawing practices, Like, I wish, more games would incorporate that, as an actual feature.
Yeah, that's what I do on Overwatch. I go in the maps and just take reference images.
The screenshots while everyone's pushing the payload.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like that too. I have a folder of like Overwatch screenshots.
Yeah, I have so many reference images of just like all the materials and stuff from the maps.
Yeah, and but honestly, Valorant and Valorant is really cool as well. Like, I mean, personally, I love the Overwatch art style more than anything, and the environments. I even bought the course from an art lead, environment art lead of Overwatch as well, Tiago Klavki's course. I don't know if you know him.
Oh yes, I love his stuff. I actually did a small mentorship with Lucas. I can't remember his last name though. It's a long last name. Let me see. Lucas Annunziata. I think he's a senior environment artist or a lead environment artist on Overwatch. And I did a course for him. It was really taught me a lot.
Nice. And yeah, but it's still, but it still amazes me how Overwatch's optimization is so good, even though they have so much stuff in each map and game. Like,
Yeah.
I play Valorant and Overwatch, from with the same internet, but Overwatch runs way more smoother, even though it has so much VFX and assets, bigger maps, and everything. But for some reason, it's more optimized, I guess, than Overwatch. Sometimes, it's really weird. Even though, or in Valorant, by the way, don't get me wrong, Valorant's team are extremely good as well. But it's just one of those things. Sometimes when I play, I sometimes get lag, even though the game is as optimized as they optimize it as much as they can.
Yeah.
But it still sometimes happens. Like, yeah, that's the weird thing about being an digital artist, especially environment artist, because for games, because you can't just be an artist. You always have to worry about the optimization and everything,
Right.
And yeah, it's kind of exhausting sometimes.
Yeah. It's like, oh, I want to make this cool, super cool. Like the bike I was making, I was like, oh, this looks so good. And then I was like, well, now I have to make the low poly version of it and basically recreate it, but still get all that nice, crisp detail.
Yeah. And all right, like we spoke about some artists, let's move into the next question, which is kind of related to that. Who are some of your favorite artists and designers that have inspired you the most?
Oh man, I could just like name everybody that's worked on Overwatch, but somebody that like I've been watching or not watching, I've been like looking up to them is Kevin Brunt, who goes by Sir Digital Bacon. He's a senior environment artist, I think, on Valorant, and from maybe 2 years ago, I asked him if he could look at my portfolio, and since then he's been helping me ever since. Like if I have a question, he'll get back to me sometimes if he has the time because he's super busy. But he helps me a lot when I have questions and I want feedback on my environments.
All right, and here's the thing. Aside from art and environment art and all this stuff we talked about, is there any other specific, hobbies or ambitions or objectives you want to accomplish? Anything art related?
I think it would be really cool to be like to do something Star Wars or just like even be in the background of a Star Wars show or movie. That just sounds like really fun.
Like being a backup actor, you mean?
Yeah, like being an extra or something, or even like making like a back to environments, making like some type of prop that they use in the show or something. That'd be really cool. Or movies.
Yeah, that would be interesting. And all right, we've reached the final question and section of the podcast, which is called Time Capsule. And by the name of it, I think you can tell what it's going to be like, but let me explain it this way. Imagine in a limited amount of time that you have the opportunity in a few minutes, let's say, to say anything from yourself as a human being to another human being that might be listening to this, podcast at any point of time in the future. So basically, imagine you're in the escape pod of a shuttle and you're about to be ejected into the abyss of space. And before you get ejected, there's a countdown, and you have some voice recorder that you can, leave some voice logs, behind. In that case, what would you say?
Oh man, like about anything or just like art related?
No, not like that's kind of strange because before you're deaf, you wouldn't think about really art that much. So yeah, Like,
Oh man.
anything that could come to your mind. And don't worry if you think your answer might be cliche or something. Just say whatever comes to your mind.
Do something that you want to be happy. Like, sorry, I cannot think right now. Do something that's going to make you happy for the rest of your life, probably. Because if you're just doing something, or if you want to do something and you don't do it and you're just like settle for the next best thing, you're not going to be happy. You might be happy, I mean, depending, but I would try to be at least reach some type of goal that you set for yourself that is like a dream of yours.
All right. I think that's a wrap. Thanks so much for coming by. Where can people contact you if they have any questions? Is your Instagram account okay, or Twitter? Which one?
My Twitter, MichaelG_3D. It's what I'm active on the most.
Yep, that's linked in the description down below for anyone who's curious or want to follow him on Twitter. You can go there. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks so much for coming by, and thank you to anyone who tuned in and listened to this episode as well. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, leave a comment down below. If you have any suggestions or comments or critiques, always check them out. And with that being said, take care, everyone. Stay safe. Have a good rest of your week. Bye.
Bye.